What is going on? Welcome to Only Football on a Tuesday. Drake's got the club going up on a Tuesday. I got the stream going up on a Tuesday. And more Nathaniel Hackett, Sean Payton drama is going on a Tuesday, along with some other things that are going on right now that we didn't get to yesterday that I'm actually excited to go over. So, one of the things that the NFL put out today was which wide receivers are we expecting to have a big season? And the receiver that came to mind for me wasn't even on the list. And I would be interested to know if you had to pick a wide receiver that you think is going to have a big year. Maybe not a rookie, right? We're talking about like a lot of like Drake London type receivers. Like they were a rookie last year and today or this year they're going to pop. We got Bill in the chat said early day, huh? Indeed. Got to go early. I got a flight tonight from Seattle to Nashville and then a car ride from Nashville to Wisconsin. So it's going to be a lot of traveling here in the next couple of days. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do an extra episode on Tuesday, just in case things get weird with the time schedule. So this is going to be one of my favorite articles, because I love the receiver position. I'm a big fan of the receiver position. It's fun. They're the most flashy players on the field. And it's always fun trying to predict which ones are going to be, a 90 or more overall on Madden next year, right? Which receiver is going to just blow our minds? Like, wow, that guy's good. And on one hand, we already know that Garrett Wilson is really good, but we only know that from him throwing with Zach Wilson. Like, what if Garrett Wilson is, way better with Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. So I only say that to say that you could even have a good receiver in your top 5 for, who's going to stand out. I would imagine there's probably going to be some wide receivers that like an Odell Beckham Jr., right? An older wide receiver. And I'm trying to see where did they just had it. Here we go. No, that's top 10 starting quarterbacks in 4 years. Man, I swear I just saw this. I think it was this morning, and it was on NFL.com. And it just disappeared on me. Let me take a look. If it's not there, that's fine. I did look at the list, and I could tell you that the part that I didn't see was Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley wasn't on the list, and you guys know that I've been pretty big on Calvin Ridley. I just saw something surface on Twitter, and it was, I believe, Zay Jones running a route. And then right after, it showed Calvin Ridley running a route. And Calvin Ridley is such a good receiver. I said he was probably the best route runner in the NFL about 2 years ago. He does get slept on because Atlanta hasn't done anything special, but it's important to keep in mind that, even on teams that don't make the playoffs, right? Like think about DeAndre Hopkins. Even on a 4-win team, you could still have the best receiver in the league, but it is not going to be a popular opinion because as long as people aren't noticing you, people aren't talking about you, the more people don't talk about you, the more people will forget you. And I think that's definitely happened with Calvin Ridley. Not making this list was surprising. I thought he at least would be on the radar. If you got to name which 5 receivers are going to, at the end of the season, put their name back on the map that, hey, I should be in your top five, top five, top five. And Bill said Wilson isn't practicing ankle. They're going to sit him for the Hall of Fame game 2. Should be okay by week 1 though. And that is our NFL insider Ian Rappaport coming to you live from the studio. Always appreciate the shout outs, Bill. But if it's going to be one receiver, if the Jags are going to go 12-5, if they're going to go 13-4 and be a first seed in the AFC South, then it's going to take Trevor Lawrence getting better, right? He figured something out late last season. It's going to take him taking another step towards getting better, and it's going to take Calvin Ridley being a top 5 receiver. I think that's going to be his guy. I think Calvin Ridley could easily have over 1,500 receiving yards this year, but he wasn't on the list. So the only receiver that I do remember from the list was Drake London, who was a rookie last year. And the thought was that now with Bijan Robinson, there's going to be less attention devoted to Drake London. And keep in mind, he got a lot of targets last season, but a lot of those were, it was the opportunity wasn't really there. Like on paper, it's like, well, he was targeted as many times as Justin Jefferson or whatever. It doesn't really matter if those targets are terrible passes because your offensive line is collapsed, because Ritter doesn't know where to put the ball yet. I think what we can agree on, the article writer and me, is that Drake London will probably see a lot better quality of targets, even if the quantity does go down. And I think Drake London could turn into a receiver that puts his name on the map. And another guy in Atlanta is Kyle Pitts. Like Kyle Pitts was the highest drafted tight end in my lifetime, I believe. I've never seen a tight end go number 4 overall, but it does show you how the game is evolving, right? I mean, in the time where Travis Kelce shows like how valuable he is to the Chiefs, people look at these generation type talents and they go, that could be our Travis Kelce. And that is enough to get somebody at number 4 overall. However, he didn't really stand out to me in his first 2 years. And obviously, if you're picking a tight end at number 4, he's raw athletically. He's a freak. So are they going to be able to really tap into that? Because not all athletes are football players. And this is a great point that Sean Payton was making, was like, we have a lot of athletes. We have a ton of athletes. Jerry Jeudy. We need to find out if we have football players. Totally different, right? So is Kyle Pitts going to take the next step into being a football player? How good will Bijan Robinson be as a rookie? Tyler Algier ran for over 1,000 yards his rookie season. Quietly was a rookie 1,000-yard rusher. Didn't really get talked about. And it's because Atlanta wasn't really doing anything worth talking about. But if all of these people can kind of take one big step together, this is a very young football team. If Kyle Pitts takes the same size step that Drake London takes, and Ritter in his second year takes a similar step, and Bijan Robinson is really what he was advertised to be, the best running back in the draft, and with the addition defensively with Calais Campbell, I think Atlanta is my sneaky team in the NFC South. If I had to pick a team right now out of the NFC South, I would go with the Atlanta Falcons. But it is relying on a lot of things, right? Those are a lot of moving parts. So as you can see down here at the bottom of the screen, I have blank Ritter is the offensive QB of the future. Now, being the franchise quarterback of the future is something I would expect your coach to tell you. It would be really stupid to not give you a vote of confidence before you go out there. Because whether he does good or bad, Atlanta, if they did bad, would draft a quarterback. So ultimately, as a coach, you have nothing to lose. You might as well support your young guy, unless the tanking is really that deep in some franchises. I don't know. Maybe they don't want to give the quarterback confidence, because what if he actually wins a couple games? We don't even want that, right? We want to get the quarterback out of USC. I don't think Atlanta's doing that, because their offseason moves don't reflect that. I really do think that if you're an Atlanta fan right now, it's prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And in the worst case scenario, you are going to probably draft a very capable quarterback on a roster that is completely loaded with raw talent that just needs to be, you know, in the hands of the right painter, right? To turn it into a canvas. Like, I think this team has something, and I'm going to keep an eye on that. So, this little message from the coaching staff, this is what the article said. The vibes are incredibly high in Flowery Branch, Georgia, where the Falcons have their eyes on the throne of a wide open NFC South. Bijan Robinson is going viral. By the way, I just wanted to say I have not been keeping up with the Falcons. So, I mean, I have like since the draft, but it's been a long time. So, I'm very interested to see what is the temperature for the fan base and for the team. Like, what are they thinking? Are they like, totally bought in, like, or, are they just kind of, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what the feeling is in the Atlanta city right now. So Bijan Robinson's going viral. I did see that video with his route running. It was pretty insane. I think he finished that with a one-hand catch. Desmond Ritter is preparing to take over as the team's starting quarterback, and owner Arthur Blank couldn't be more optimistic about where the Falcons are headed. Arthur Blank. Okay, so I knew the head coach was Arthur Smith, and because I knew that that was a direct quote from Blank, I didn't know, is that the quarterback's coach, the offensive coordinator? Means a lot more now that I know that this is coming from the owner of the freaking team, right? So he's super optimistic about where the Falcons are heading. Maybe he's not, and he's just saying that. I don't know. We'll see. This is the third year of a 3-year plan, and I think what I see and what I like is a lot of Coach Arthur Smith and General Manager Terry Fontenot laid out a very careful, thoughtful, kind of methodical plan on what they were going to do. Blank said Tuesday, I think we're moving in the right direction. This year, I expect our team to be even more competitive, if you will, with the emphasis on the defensive side of the ball during free agency. I think we have as many offensive tools as probably most, if any, team in the NFL today. We've got a lot of talent, obviously, an experienced offensive line that performed at a high level last year. I like where we are. And you know what? This is not just your typical the grass is greener, glass half full. This is genuine. Like, I believe him. I believe that if you are an owner and you bring in an entire new regime and you go with Arthur Smith, and in the day and age of throwing the football, right? The running game is dying. Arthur Smith prides himself on his running attack. He knows who he is, right? You can be outdated, you can be old fashioned, you can be anything you want to be as long as you're being authentic. Now, you may have to make some changes, but I don't believe that anything works that's not authentic to you. Arthur Smith clearly has his roots very deep in what it means to be a good running football team. It's not fake, and the team bought into it. And that's why even when they played the 49ers with the first ranked rushing defense, Atlanta ran for like 200 yards and blew the 49ers out of the water. And we were like, dude, Arthur, what is going on over there in Atlanta? Now, ultimately, like the owner said, the defense didn't do great last year. And on top of that, they threw in Desmond Ritter after Marcus Mariota wasn't really working out. I mean, that type of a season doesn't mean that everything else isn't moving in a good direction. Like if you have a amazing team, I don't care, the Chiefs, the Eagles, but if you play a quarterback that does, bad enough to get removed halfway through the season, I don't care who is on your team. It's not going to be a good year. You're not going to go to the playoffs. There's only maybe one example that would exclude this scenario, and that's Peyton Manning getting benched in 2015 for Brock Osweiler. And Osweiler holding the fort down and winning games, and it wasn't until week 17. Manning was healthy on the sideline. Brock Osweiler threw 3 interceptions in the first half. Denver was a first seed in the playoffs. Okay, so they needed to win this game. And halftime, everyone is chanting. I think it was right before halftime. There was one drive left in the first half, and the crowd started chanting Manning. And then Manning came in. I still get goosebumps to this day because it was like seeing Manning on the sideline. You could tell Manning just wanted to do what was right for the team, but he wasn't good enough. And he went out there and he threw a touchdown drive immediately and took over for the Denver Broncos starting quarterback position. That is a miracle. To win a Super Bowl when you're going through a quarterback carousel during your season because everybody's sucking is a miracle. What's normal is you to have a down season like Atlanta did last year. Now, if they address the defense like they did, and the owner alluded to that, he said, the moves that we made defensively, Calais Campbell, let's actually talk about those moves really quick. Atlanta's offense was productive, in which the Falcons lured the likes of safety Jesse Bates. Okay, so Jesse Bates is now going to be the one of the best safeties in the NFL, is going to be the safety for Atlanta. That's huge. That is monster. Defensive tackle David Onyemata and defensive end Calais Campbell to Georgia, where the Falcons previously existed as a team in transition. But now they have their signs on a greater achievement. Atlanta's first-round selection, Bijan Robinson, added more juice, giving Smith, best known for directing Titans offense powered by Derrick Henry, his best runner to date in Atlanta. Wow. So I guess I didn't realize where the head coach came from. I'm getting better at it, but did Arthur Smith come from Tennessee? I'm looking that up right now, just so I'm giving off good info. Okay, so wow, do you know Arthur Smith has a billionaire dad? How Arthur Smith forged a path separate from billionaire dad to become the Falcons head coach. That's pretty intense. Did not know that. Okay, so here we go. Blah, blah, blah. Great career before he came to Tennessee, blank said. I think it gave Coach Smith a lot of credit along with Ryan Tannehill. So he was the offensive coordinator over in Tennessee. So these are not shocking, right? I mean, literally, Tennessee managed the game with Ryan Tannehill, run the football with Derrick Henry, play good defense. There's the recipe, right? I mean, this is a Tennessee team that was a first seed 2 years ago. So you can't even say, well, that'll never work. It worked for them. Yeah, they didn't, make it to the Super Bowl, but that makes a lot of sense putting that together. Bill said, Pickens on the Steelers just said, he's the best wide receiver in the world. Just made a stupid good one-hander today too. You know what? I like it. I feel like you have to have that attitude. If you've played competitive sports, you know that you have to have that mentality. And the receiver position is especially like that because it's you versus the cornerback. And you have to have that mindset. It doesn't matter who comes against me. If the ball's thrown to me and it's in my vicinity, I will be the one coming down with that ball every time. And the only way to really have that mindset is when you really start believing that you're the greatest in the world, right? You just haven't been discovered yet. You haven't gotten the best quarterback yet. You haven't gotten the right press yet. You'll I like it. And I think that I don't know if he'll be the greatest, but Steelers do draft quarter or wide receivers very well. So it would not surprise me. Like Steelers make wide receivers like Wisconsin makes cheese. So good little fact, good little fun thing that Bill put in there. Thank you, Bill. Um, so okay, so they made all those different acquisitions. Okay, and now here is the most important part of the article. It's what Blank said of Ritter, who's their quarterback. And if you're anything like, I don't know, like 90% of people, you thought Atlanta going with Ritter was them not liking, you know, getting, let's say, Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. They're like, no, no, no. We'll roll with Ritter and we'll win either way. If he sucks, we'll draft, right? So it is kind of interesting to read on his comments where he's just going all in on Ritter right now. He said, I like our young quarterback. People look at just the last 4 games last year and they say, well, based on those 4 games, but he really progressed from the time he came on campus here and until after he was drafted. He had a good camp. He's been a strong leader since showing up here, continued to develop, worked hard with Marcus Mariota, learned a lot from Marcus. He's a learner. He's got a lot of humility. As the year progressed, he had an opportunity to play, and I think he played at a very competitive level. Those last 4 games, each game seemed to be a little bit better. So we do feel pretty strongly that he's going to be our quarterback of the future. We've got to play games and we've got to see, but we feel good about him. This is very, very realistic. I like that what I seem to get from Atlanta right now is just them being very realistic about who they are and what they have and what realistic expectations are. You know, he didn't say, "Oh, of course he's going to be great." He said there are games to be played, so we will see. We're going to have to sit back and watch this play out. But I can tell you that this is authentic because the general managers don't have to talk good about players, right? They barely have to talk to the press in general, let alone go on a long speech like that. And the other reason I know that this is authentic is because look how many things that he went out of his way, good things that he went out of his way to say about Ritter, right? He complimented. Remember in the 2016 presidential election, Hillary and Trump, and they asked each other to say one nice thing. They closed the night with say one nice thing about the other candidate. Say one nice thing, and then they swapped, and they both went. You could tell it was so hard for them both to come up with one thing. So when somebody doesn't necessarily like you, right? It can be really hard to give, a couple compliments, let alone Blank went on to give, I don't know, like 7. He liked how he played in the 4 games. He thinks he's progressing from the time he got on the campus. He had a good camp. He's been a strong leader. He's continuing to develop. He worked really well with Marcus Mariota last year. He learned a lot. He's a learner, and he got a lot of humility. I would go on and say I believe the general manager, and I'm excited for him. as much as it's fun to watch the Joe Burrows, right? Even this segment, like you may be thinking that this is a boring segment because who cares? It's Atlanta, you know? I mean, I I like to humanize the moment, right? I mean, think about it. Imagine being a young kid in your 20s and essentially you have 1 year for the rest of your life. How he does this year, he will cause a butterfly effect on his whole life. And just think of the pressure, right? I think the Netflix quarterback documentary, I think in a way it corrected some things, inside of me that might have been wrong. Because when it first came out, it said Patrick Mahomes was a quarterback. And I said, awesome. Kirk Cousins. And I was like, I like Kirk Cousins. And then it said Marcus Mariota. And I was like, why? Why wouldn't they do Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Mahomes? And I'm like, of course, right? But watching that whole entire series, it really was about how there's three different tiers in the NFL and how your experience in the NFL is drastically different depending on which tier you're in. Okay. And now I have a lot of respect for the tier three quarterbacks. The Baker Mayfields of the league or the Teddy Bridgewaters, like, and that's why everyone loved the Geno Smith story, is because Geno Smith was a tier three quarterback who moved his way to tier two, and you just don't see that late in a career. So I am excited to see how Ritter does with the Falcons, and I'm excited to see. I think we'll know right away. The trailers to good movies are always good, and in your first 5 minutes watching a good movie that you're watching a good movie. If you're an hour deep and you don't know if it's good or not, it's probably not. And quarterbacks are like that. Like, we know pretty quick when Mahomes went out on the field, there was like a 3rd and 15 that he converted on in the first quarter. And we all knew, we're like, that guy's different. That guy's special. Is Ritter going to have that moment? And Bill, speaking of the quarterback show, he said, I like the show, but it sounds like a few people have turned down being in season 2. Rodgers and Field are no for sure, per Rich Eisen. Well, I think whoever ends up doing it, I think for the fans, the consumers, I think we are going to get what we need, right? Like, if we would have gotten a perfect world, the top 3 quarterbacks, whether you got Joe Burrow and Hurts and Mahomes, or you throw Josh Allen in, I don't, all these lessons would have been missed to learn from watching Marcus Mariota and his buddy, who he went to high school with, who went to culinary school, who lived in Portland and ended up moving in to be his cook. And, I'm really, sometimes, what is that song? You don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And I think whatever quarterbacks they do, it's going to be fun unless we get like 3 just terrible quarterbacks and be like, oh man, they could have thrown 1 in there. I hope they keep it with 3 different tiers and doing a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I hope they can at least snag 1 tier 1. But as you can see with the ticker scrolling, there was a little bit more back and forth. To honestly, I'm like over the Nathaniel Hackett thing. As a Bronco fan, I'm over it. Like, there's nothing more that needs to be said. It's just the media is really bored. And, Aaron Rodgers said what he said: keep my coach's name out of your mouth. And then Nathaniel Hackett today went on the record and said that Sean Payton violated the coach's code with his comments. You went on to talk about how, as a coach, you live in a glass house, and coaches kind of have this unspoken rule that the one thing that we don't do is throw rocks at each other's homes, because there's enough of that going on in the outside world. I could understand what Nathaniel Hackett was saying. I really can. At the same time, I think Sean Payton meant what he said. And because it was so brutally honest, it hurt people's feelings. And the truth will do that. But there's something that feels wrong about punishing anybody who tells the truth. Not that he was facing any kind of punishment, but I just mean like punish him by, putting him in, the box, right? The timeout box because he's kind of an asshole. Like, I do think we have to, you know, be able to receive hard truths. And I think that's something our society is losing a little bit. So I don't have a problem with Sean Payton, and I absolutely don't have a problem with Aaron Rodgers coming to his defense. And Sean Payton probably knows more about that coach code than I do. But I mean, it may have been such a bad job that Sean Payton's like, you don't even deserve to be in the coach's code group. That's another thing. Like, imagine just somebody, that's never done a job before comes in, does a terrible job, then the company hires a real person, right? You might not even refer to the previous person as a carpenter or a painter, whatever profession. If they did a terrible job, you can look around and be like, that was not a professional painter. Look at the walls, right? And at that point, are you really breaking the painter code if you talk crap? I mean, it is what it is. Week 5 is going to be fireworks. I believe the kids are saying it's going to be a movie. They should make a movie off of it. It is very ironic how everything has happened with the hiring of Nathaniel Hackett for Aaron Rodgers to the firing of Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers defending his quarterback against our coach who came to save us from his coach. It is all very intertwined and it's going to be a lot of fun. I wouldn't be surprised if they do some kind of NFL special or something like that on it. Running backs that are being ranked right now for fantasy purposes. I know I switched subjects there pretty quick, but there is on the bottom of the screen, you can see a ticker. I wrote Fantasy Football 2023 running back rankings and tiers. Now, there was only 3 running backs in tier 1, which I was really surprised about. So let's get right into it. First, by the way, I just looked at the first 3, but I already in my mind, because you guys know I don't like looking at these before we go. So I keep my reactions authentic. I thought absolutely you have to have probably, if you only have 3 spots, I would go Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Nick Chubb. I think those would have to be my 3. And I went and looked, and I'm sorry, it's not there. I don't know how Derrick Henry's not in the top 3, but it must feel really good to be in the top 3 if you're a Giants fan because Saquon Barkley is ranked number 2. The number 1 tier, number 1 rank is Christian McCaffrey. Probably not a huge surprise. And then Austin Eckler at number 3. Now, I respect Austin Eckler, but to me, I would replace Austin Eckler with Nick Chubb. I would replace Austin Eckler with Derrick Henry. Whatever. Tier 2 is interesting because Bijan Robinson is in tier 2. So is Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, obviously. But then you have Bijan Robinson, who's ranked 1 spot above Johnathan Taylor. To me, that is like very premature, but this is fantasy football purposes. So you got to keep in mind that Atlanta is a run team. We talked about it for like 25 minutes. They're going to run the football. They're going to do it a lot. So that's what probably makes Bijan Robinson so valuable, even though he's a rookie. And there is a little bit of gambling that he is going to work out. But Johnathan Taylor right behind him. 1 second, guys. Real quick. Sorry. I will just got to take a 1 second break. All right, probably the weirdest choice of music I could have done it. Good time to go get a drink. had to uh had to go to the bathroom, you know? Very very rarely do I have to use the bathroom. I've been getting better at that, huh? Um so yeah. Arthur Smith, Bijan Robinson, number 6, Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson at 8. I got a problem with that. I got a huge problem with that. But I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to be the reason, right, that he goes higher. As a person that plays fantasy football, that wouldn't be good for me. But let's just put it this way: Ramondre Stevenson is your perfect 3 down back. He can block, he can catch, he can be the bell cow. Like he can run, 3 downs in a row. He was so good last year. They had like 3 running backs set up. I believe they had Damian Harris. They had a whole setup, and now where's Damian Harris? Damian Harris, because they just went with Ramondre Stevenson by like, I know, definitely by Thanksgiving. Ramondre Stevenson was the clear number 1 running back. And this year, I think he's really going to build off of last year. And he may even mess around with, dare I say, being the NFL leading rusher. Yeah, I think it's very possible, especially with Bill O'Brien now being the offensive coordinator. I only think that's going to benefit Ramondre Stevenson. So, okay, where did Damian Harris go, though? Which running back? Somebody just got hurt, and it was like, dang, that sucks. It was the same day. Joe Burrow. No, that was Jalen Ramsey. Damian Harris went somewhere, and I remember reading because a running back got hurt in training camp. I'm gonna see if I can see. Where is Damian Harris? Damian Harris is the Buffalo Bills. That's right. So I remember that. Why? Who got hurt? Latavius Murray, Bills running back hurt. I know it wasn't Cook. Oh, it was Naheem Hines. Naheem Hines will miss the season after he sustained an ACL injury. And that's when I was reading his backup was, well, it wasn't really his backup. It was a total split. But that's when I read about Damian Harris. So anyway, Damian Harris was so good that they ended up, doing away with him because they're going to make Ramondre Stevenson the 3 down back. Lions is a good guess. Lions is another team that might do something like that. So I do think that there's going to be a lot of running. If you play fantasy football and Ramondre Stevenson is on the board, I would get him over even, dare I say, Johnathan Taylor. But let me be clear. I believe in Johnathan Taylor. I talked to my brother yesterday, and he was like, I told you guys, he was like, oh, that's going to be David Johnson, basically a one-hit wonder. I said, no, absolutely not. If you know Johnathan Taylor, then you know that he's not going to be a bust. First off, in order to be like it, Wisconsin does good on running backs, but sometimes you don't know if it's the offensive line or not because there's a lot of farm boys. And you look at Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, those are very strong offensive lines, right? And that normally complements a pretty good running game. So it's kind of like the Emmitt Smith stats, behind the Dallas offensive line. It's like, but you knew Emmitt Smith was still great, even though he had a great offensive line. Johnathan Taylor and Melvin Gordon are the 2 running backs, of the last 15 years that were special beyond the great offensive line. Okay. So I'm not done with Johnathan Taylor just yet. So we're going to talk about the tier 3, and then we're going to see potential landing spots for Johnathan Taylor because it may be getting to a point that's beyond fixable. right? They may not be able to mend this. And number 9 is Tony Pollard. Dallas Cowboys had a really good year, good enough for them to kick Zeke out of the club unless they end up bringing him back on a team-friendly deal. Number 10 is Josh Jacobs, which is a little, if you're Josh Jacobs, disrespectful, right? You throw me in tier 2. Not only that, you make me the last running back in tier 2, and I just led the league. Well, he's going to have to do it again to boost that score. But remember, this is fantasy. So tier 3, Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, who the Lions just drafted from Alabama, the second best running back in the draft. And Travis Etienne at 14, Najee Harris at 15, Miles Sanders in Carolina. I think that's going to be an interesting player to watch, Miles Sanders, just because he had a really good year and then he's been, somewhere just kind of quiet, getting 7 points a game. So I'm wondering if Carolina is going to be able to do anything. But remember, Carolina did run the football better last year after CMC got traded. It was the weirdest thing. And I'm trying to remember what his name was, who took over. I can see his jersey. I can see everything. Maybe he'll be on this list. Aaron Jones is at 18. Alexander Madison is at 19. And if you have seen how Alexander Madison has come in for Dalvin Cook, who is oftenly injured, he has been a very good replacement. I mean, I think Alexander Madison's a real deal, and obviously so do the fans and the team, because Dalvin Cook going to be a Jet. And then number 20, James Conner. And then here we go, tier 4. Tier 4, this is probably where we're going to see our Carolina running back. Javonte Williams, number 21. If he has a good year, he'll go up. J.K. Dobbins, Baltimore. Alvin Kamara, 23. And he was always a clear, he was always a number tier 1. So just shows one bad year really drops you. Brian Robinson, who started having some success later in the season. Cam Akers. Wow. DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Walker. I got to say, this tier 4, with the exception of Alvin Kamara and J.K. Dobbins, I think this whole entire group has potential to go up to, even tier 2, maybe tier 1. Who knows? Javonte Williams, Brian Robinson for the Commanders, Cam Akers for the Rams, DeAndre Swift with the Eagles now, and Kenneth Walker for Seattle. Those are all young dudes that could very easily jump way up the board. Rachaad White, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Khalil Herbert, Chicago, and then you have David Montgomery, Detroit Lions, and then you have at 31, Dalvin Cook, because he's a free agent, I'm assuming. And then number 32, Isaiah Pacheco, Kansas City. Oh, that's weird. So they have Dalvin Cook at 31, regardless of the fact that he's a free agent. I don't understand why people think Dalvin Cook isn't good. We saw it first on the top 100, and now this. Dalvin, what? That one, you have him only 2 spots above his brother, James Cook. I don't get that at all. And then tier 5, you got your Zach Charbonnet, James Cook, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell, A.J. Dillon, Samaje Perine, who played for the Bengals for a while. Now he's with Denver. Kendre Miller, New Orleans, Evan Hall, Jerick McKinnon, Dante Foreman. There it is, number 43. Oh, wait, so now he's with the Bears. Okay, but he was the replacement last year. That's a sneaky move by Chicago. I don't think I really talked about that one. Rashad Penny is still in the league somehow after all of his injuries and neck surgeries. And I mean, look at Rashad Penny's injury history. His neck injury was a really, really serious injury to be still playing football. Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Raheem Mostert, Tyler Algier. See what I mean with the disrespect? All the way down at 51, over 1,000 yards as a rookie. Jeff Wilson, Jamal Williams, and then tier 6, Michael Carter, Gus Edwards, Spears, Cordell Patterson, Chuba Hubbard. No, that's who took over for Carolina. Chuba Hubbard, which is a really fun name to say. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chase Brown, and Leonard Fournette, Kareem. This is tier 7. And most of these people are Ezekiel Elliott, free agent. Leonard Fournette, free agent. Kareem Hunt, free agent. Kareem Hunt, he still could be an amazing weapon on the team. I'm surprised that out of all these, like Zeke, I could see no one wanting him. Leonard Fournette, I could see people not really wanting him. But Kareem Hunt, to me, I don't understand it. I know that he got in trouble for like domestic abuse or something like that, so maybe that, but Joshua Kelly, Zach Evans, Pierre Strong, Chase Edmonds, and Chris Evans, Kyron Williams, and then tier 8. I'm about to say, this is my last tier. I don't care if it's the last one. Melvin Gordon, Boston Scott, Dearness Johnson, Sean Tucker, Deuce Vaughn, who I'm actually excited to see. That's the famous dad who called his son and said, "You want to come to work with me?" Ty Davis Price, Malik Davis, Matt Breida, New York Giants, shout out. Bam Knight, Jermichael Hasty, Latavius Murray, he's still got some ball in him. Ronald Jones, James Robinson, Hassan Haskins, Keyshawn Vaughn, Eric Gray, Deneric Prince, Kevin Harris, Chris Rodriguez, and Craig Reynolds. And that is where, oh no, there's 2 more. It goes to 100. Kenton Mitchell and Zach Moss. So Zach Moss for the Indianapolis Colts is the last ranked running back at number 100. So Bill said it was their tight end, Zylstra, season-ending knee injury. It was their tight end. Oh, the injury. No, I thought it was the one that made me look at the Bills roster was it was because Nyheim Hines, right? Yeah, Nyheim Hines. He got injured on the jet ski accident, and it was a huge deal. We talked about jet skiing and that baseball player that lost his life jet skiing, and that's when I went through the names. No, you're good. So those are your running backs. Like I said, for me, I think Johnathan Taylor is going to have a year where he's going to be mad. He's going to be trying to prove what he is capable of. He's not getting paid. Is he even going to play? Well, if he does play, these are the top 5 trade destinations right now. The Johnathan Taylor situation remains strained in Indianapolis. The star running back is the latest at his position to dig his heels in on an extension and his perceived value. And the Colts, like many other teams in similar situations, don't appear eager to offer a long-term deal, while Taylor still has a year left on his rookie contract. Now, the two sides find themselves at loggerheads, with Taylor requesting a trade and Colts owner Jim Irsay saying that he has no intentions of dealing the running back. But could Irsay's stance change if the team feels it can't keep the All-Pro long term? Would the organization be willing to listen to other teams for a swap? I think many teams would love to have Taylor's talent, but how many would be willing to offer the 24-year-old running back the kind of contract he's seeking? Well, NFL insider Ian Rappaport reported on Tuesday, after talking to multiple NFL general managers, there is expected to be interest from teams in Taylor, and that clubs are willing to give him the kind of contract he desires, which I was already thinking, of course they are, because Johnathan Taylor's different. Not because he's really good, but if you even put even Saquon Barkley, what makes Johnathan Taylor different than Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, all the other running backs that can't get a contract? Easy. He came out and immediately led the NFL in rushing yards. Immediately. And then we know that last year he had a down year. That's fine. That's less tread on the tires. So what we really know about Johnathan Taylor is that he's what, 22, 20, probably 23 or 24 years old. He's 24. He was born in 1999. So, yes, I think this is a great opportunity because if you look at the teams that, let's say the Giants or Austin Eckler, right? You are gambling, right? I think that those guys deserve to be paid, but let me be clear, when you put somebody on a 5-year contract and you have already squeezed out 5 good years out of him, the unlikeliness that you're going to get 5 more is enormous. And by the way, if you pay Johnathan Taylor now, not only will you get guaranteed the next 5 years, but you're also going to have your running back under contract while the running back market gets reset, because there is a reset coming on the running back market. Somebody's going to get paid, then they're going to get outpaid, and it's going to start happening, right? But what not a better time to be first, right? Because if you're first, your contract is to be the lowest, right? Nobody wants to make anybody an offer more than $12 million a year. We'll do it. And guess what? All of you that sat here and watched me do it, you're going to be paying 13, 14, 15 million dollars a year for your running back. There is definitely something very valuable about the unique circumstance Johnathan Taylor is in. And I think as a GM, I think as any GM, this is an opportunity that is a little bit different than Dalvin Cook, than all of them. I do expect Johnathan Taylor, if he really does become available, to be put on a team immediately and put on a long-term contract, 5 years, I would imagine. So he said, one team I didn't list here, the Jets. They might be all in on Dalvin Cook as a free agent, but the idea that they would trade for Taylor with Breece Hall under contract for 3 more years feels like a stretch. I agree. Breece Hall for Johnathan Taylor, not happening. So here are the teams that they do have. Miami Dolphins. Any interested team in Dalvin Cook probably would be interested in trading for Taylor, so the Dolphins certainly fit that regard. Miami's backfield might have decent enough shape. They got Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Devon Achane, who was a guy I wanted on my team. He was so fast. He's really good. And then Myles Gaskin. But the Cook interest suggests they may want some more juice out of the position. It does feel that they have a lot of 78 overall running backs. It's nice to have a 94 overall running back. Does Taylor fit the McDaniels offense? Well, sure. Speed is the name of the game in Miami, and Taylor has plenty of it. He turning into the fastest run of any ball carrier during the 2021 season. And even if Taylor might not be perfect fit for third down standpoints, the Dolphin would appear to have enough other options to fill that role. The question is whether the Dolphins are spread too thin, resource-wise, to pull off such a move. I am so shocked that they're not, considering the players they have on their team and the type of contracts those players are on. But that's just something that is going to be a mystery to me because I'm not going to look it up. They might have the immediate cap space to afford him, but long term it could be a whole different story. They're currently at more than $30 million above the projected 24 salary cap. Okay, and then plus, on the one hand, a trade asset for veteran approach would fit the Dolphins because they've already spent a lot of money to land vets like Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Ramsey. So This is a franchise that's really hell-bent on making a Super Bowl run. What about the other teams that would be interested? Well, we got the New England Patriots, we got the Chicago Bears, we got the Arizona Cardinals, which would be a death sentence for Johnathan Taylor. Tampa Bay, not a great place either. But you could make an argument that Arizona and Tampa need to pick up their phone immediately because they don't have, right? They don't have a lot of certainty around their team. And if you're the head coach, your job is to win football games. Johnathan Taylor's available. Like, I don't know if he would be interested, but a team that was mentioned that I think might be a perfect fit for both people is the Chicago Bears. Okay. And I think where the Bears are trending with Justin Fields going up, I've seen the projections as high as Justin Fields could win an MVP. The Bears could win the division. Um, they've added so much new talent, right? People are feeling good in Chicago. You got, Darnell Mooney or no, DJ Moore now over there. I think if they do have Darnell Mooney too, but if you could add Jonathan Stewart, I think Stewart would be joining a team maybe with more optimism than the Colts have currently. And I think both teams would benefit from that. So there's a question, though, how much interest the Bears would have in dealing for Johnathan Taylor. Chicago possesses a potentially solid running back trio in Khalil Herbert and Dante Foreman and Rashawn Johnson, and the Bears have Herbert, who averaged 5.7 yards per carry last season, on a cheap deal for 2 more seasons. Plus, if things go well with Justin Fields this season, the lion's share of remaining cap space would go towards a potential extension for Fields next summer, when he would be first eligible for one. Ryan Poles, the general manager, has been aggressive in his role of reshaping Chicago's roster, and Taylor's name, no doubt, could be brought up in meetings. But if the Bears aren't willing to match David Montgomery's contract offer from the Lions at $6 million average per year, would Taylor be too expensive? That's my biggest hangup right now with this possible connection. And we're just going to have to wait and see. I I always think about it like a Madden team, right? I live in the fairy tale world where I think, wouldn't it be cool if the Giants got him? It's like, hey, let's just do this. We're gonna have Saquon Barkley and Johnathan Taylor, and we're gonna have them both just coming in for each other. I would love to see a team just do something like that. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb kind of were there, but I mean full blown, like, oh, damn it. Is it gone? Where did my camera go? It's the only problem with using my my phone as a camera is that anytime I get a phone call, that happens to me. So I guess it's gonna just continue to say, let's see. Well, all right. I don't know why that happened. Let me take a look. Oh, that just threw my whole thing off. Let's see if that does anything. There we go. And we'll go here to camo. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to end up cutting this off. All right. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to cut all that off the real one. So the last thing I wanted to say, what was I saying? Oh, how cool it would be if the Giants had Barkley and Johnathan Taylor. I would love, even like Denver, if they could get Javonte Williams and Dalvin Cook because even here, Bill's like, we got Breida and Gray, we're good. The point is, like, not whether you're good or not. I just want to see one team have 2 top 5 running backs on their roster. and I want to see what happens. Like, I want to see a team really go for that. And like, if Tony Pollard in his prime and Zeke were in his prime, that would be kind of, that would be a really good one. But I would just like to see what the ceiling is for a team with two top five running backs. And the last thing was, there was some news that came out about Jalen Hyatt running 24 miles an hour on the field, which was, they were saying the fastest time. Tyreek Hill was like 23 point something. But then the end of the article did mention that Tyreek Hill was wearing pads and Jalen Hyatt wasn't. So the good news is that the Giants are saying that Jalen Hyatt has been standing out with the first team reps, doing really good with the second team reps. He's extremely fast on the field. So all things are looking really, really good for the Giants in their new draft pick. So I just wanted to give that update because when you got people standing on the sideline, seeing how many miles per hour you're running, you know that you got a weapon. So good for you, Bill. We used to have one named KJ Hamler, but we don't talk about him anymore. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I know it was a little bit earlier than usual, but I gotta head over to the airport and do all that fun stuff. Going to see my uncle get married, and he's the uncle that we didn't think would get married. So should be a really good time. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at FTBLONLYPODCAST. And yeah, and you can follow my partner Rick at and now Rick, ANDNOWRICK. And I am getting my personal YouTube page up and running as well. And I'm going to be doing a lot of content on there as well, especially like my interviews at the different stadiums and stuff like that. And that is going to be, I'll give that to you guys when it's fully set up. But thank you again. And Bill, wishing me a fantastic trip. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you guys again soon. Until then, take care. Go Broncos. See ya.